Puddle Lane, Toby Spelldragon and the Magician. The Magician's House. Toby Spelldragon and the Magician. One day, Toby Spelldragon was sitting at the window of the magician's room, looking down into the garden. He was watching three little mice. Two of the mice, Jeremy and Miranda, were chasing each other around and up and over an upturned flower pot. Chestnut Mouse was sitting on a stone, watching them. Toby Spelldragon. Jeremy and Miranda were so busy playing that they didn't see Tom Cat. But Tom Cat saw them. He was crouching in Puddle Lane, looking in through the gates. He could see Jeremy and Miranda every time they climbed up onto the flower pot. Tom Cat saw Jeremy and Miranda. Very softly, Tom Cat crept under the gate and into the garden. He crept nearer and nearer to the three little mice. He twitched his tail. Chestnut saw his tail move. He shouted a warning and dived into a hole near the stone. Chestnut shouted. Jeremy and Miranda didn't wait to see what Chestnut was warning them about. They dived down into the flower pot, through the hole in the top, and hid. Jeremy and Miranda hid. Tom Cat reached the flower pot. He walked slowly all around it, sniffing as he went. He could smell mice, and he could hear mice. He stood up, put his front paws on the top of the flower pot, and looked down the hole. Tom Cat looked down the hole. Toby Spelldragon hurried across the magician's room and climbed up onto the table. The magician was sitting there, writing a book about magic. He had just got to a very difficult spell, and he was writing first with a green pen and then with a red pen. Toby went to the magician. Stop writing, said Toby. You've got to do something. Tom Cat is in the garden. Go away and don't bother me, said the magician. I haven't finished this yet. But Tom Cat is after the mice, said Toby. The mice can look after themselves, said the magician. They're much cleverer than Tom Cat. And he went on writing. Go away, said the magician. Toby muttered a spell and twitched his tail. The magician's red pen vanished out of his hand. The magician looked up. Toby, he said, where's my red pen? I haven't got it, said Toby. Come and look out of the window. The magician's red pen vanished. I will in a few minutes, said the magician, but I want to finish this first. He turned back to his book. His green pen had vanished. Toby, said the magician, I must finish this, or I shall forget what I'm writing. You can have your old pens then, said Toby. The red and green pens reappeared on the table, but the book vanished. The magician's book vanished. Toby, said the magician firmly. He pushed back his chair and stood up. Come to the window, said Toby. Tomcat is trying to eat Jeremy and Miranda. What? Exclaimed the magician. He ran to the window. I've been trying to tell you, but you wouldn't listen, said Toby. The magician ran to the window. The magician looked down into the garden. Tomcat had just discovered that he could rock the flower pot to and fro. The magician looked down. There wasn't time for a spell. The magician seized a horn that was hanging on the wall. He leaned out of the window and blew it. What good will that do? Said Toby. It will take more than that to scare Tomcat. I'm calling the Gruffle, said the magician. The Gruffle hates cats. The Gruffle was the red monster. He was very gruff and grumpy, and he could vanish when he wanted to. The magician blew. At that moment, the Gruffle arrived. He came rushing around the corner of the house, breathing out fire and smoke. He saw Tomcat by the flower pot, and he roared in fury. A great puff of fire and smoke shot out of the Gruffle's mouth towards Tomcat. The Gruffle. Tomcat was so frightened at the sight of the Gruffle that for 1 second he stayed standing by the flower pot, too frightened to move. Then he leapt sideways and ran away. He fled towards the gates with the Gruffle after him. Tomcat ran away. He got to the gate just in time. He shot underneath it like a bullet from a gun. He rushed away down Puddle Lane as fast as he could run. Tomcat ran down Puddle Lane. The Gruffle stopped at the gate and peered down Puddle Lane. He couldn't run very fast, and Tomcat was disappearing into the distance. The Gruffle shot a puff of fire and smoke through the gate and came back into the garden. The Gruffle came back into the garden. Jeremy and Miranda were standing on top of the flower pot, wondering if it was safe to run home. The Gruffle saw them. The Gruffle saw Jeremy and Miranda. The Gruffle gave a great roar and vanished. Where has the Gruffle gone? Asked Toby. He was still watching from the window. I expect he's gone back to the old castle, said the magician. He's afraid of mice. Afraid of mice? Cried Toby. Don't tell that to Tomcat. He began to laugh. Jeremy and Miranda ran back to the hollow tree. The Gruffle vanished. Jeremy and Miranda ran home. And now perhaps you'll let me finish my work, said the magician. I'm not stopping you writing, said Toby. Not now. I'll come and help you. Please don't, said the magician. At least, not yet. You can help me soon. He went back to the table. The book and the green and red pens were all there. The magician sat down and began to write. The magician sat down again.